Hi, you talked about relations, and
Yes.
like let's say a lot of things are coming together for me.
Sorry, can you hold the mic a little closer?
Like this?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you talked about relations, and like one of the habits I have is like when I get insecure, I tend to go to other women, and then I'm not only enjoying their energy, but I think I need something, and I try to break it. And now I'm in love with this girl, and
Who recognizes that? Anyone? Come on, be honest. All right, you're the only dick in the room.
Oh, shit. Yeah. But like it's a habit I want to break, and like last night I go to Eindhoven and I go to my girl and I discuss it with her, and because she's also like a little uncomfortable with it, that I'm here with all these women and she knows me, and but
your partner knows you.
But for me, sometimes it's more easy to do something for somebody else, or somebody attends me on it. But the point is that by thinking that by getting attention from other women, it makes me really not free, because it's holding me on a place all the time. So now I discuss it with her, and then I come back here, and every time I see, I go in the same trap. I see somebody and I feel the energy and I go like, ooh, and I think, I cannot do it. And I do it again and I do it again. And like, can you say something like, breaking that habit?
First of all, thank you for sharing. That's awesome. I love your honesty. Did you have anything to say, or you want me to share? Cool. So let's bring this back to the calling work, because the reason we did the calling work is so that you have something to realign to, right? Instead of just being this sailboat that doesn't know where it's going, and wherever the wind flows, there it goes. Now we have a direction. Now we have a calling. Now we have something to course correct to. You know, you go, when you're on a ship or something, you're constantly course correcting. There's no straight line on the ocean, right? So similarly, in life, there's no straight line. So we have to constantly course correct. If we're not clear on what we're course correcting to, that's when all the shit happens. That's when all the imbalances are created. So could you state your calling?
My calling?
Yeah, is people...
Well, it's not crystal clear, but it's about getting people in touch with their own emotions, like with their feelings. Yeah.
Okay. So that they can do or experience what? What would they experience or do or be empowered to be if they got in touch with their emotions?
They talk less, and they would really talk less, and
what would their experience be if they talk less and if they're in touch with their emotions?
I think there would be more connection. There would be more oneness. Yeah.
Connection. So
connection.
People experiencing connection to themselves or others?
Yeah, to themselves. I think it starts with the self.
Yeah.
And then with the rest.
Cool. So try this. My calling is people experiencing inner connection. Try saying that and see how it feels.
My calling is people trying to experience.
Not trying to. Your calling is never to watch people try.
Can you say it again?
Yeah. So again, try to stick to the really simple formula. Otherwise, in subtle ways, patterns and ego comes in. This is why they designed it in this way. So even if it feels unnatural, just try it on for a couple of weeks. My calling is people experiencing what? Or realizing or being, any kind of verb like that, experientially. So people being or experiencing or knowing what?
Okay. My calling is people knowing, experiencing one.
The one? Oneness?
Oneness, yeah.
Oneness. Cool.
I don't know. I'm gonna look it back on the how do you call it? The live stream, and I will find out, because now I'm
Cool. Yeah. Okay. That's totally fine. So it's a work in progress. Okay. Let's see. Well, let's just say it's connection for now. People experiencing abundant connection, right? Liberating connection, oneness. How would you course correct your current patterns of thinking and feeling and behaving to people experiencing oneness or connection?
I don't get it.
Sure. So, what's the root cause of that behavior that you want to change? What is the belief in your mind somewhere that is feeling like it's beneficial to do that, even though you feel that it's time for you to change that?
That I'm not whole. That I'm not.
There you go. Awesome. That you're not one?
Yes.
Nice. Wholeness is oneness, right? Because if it's whole, it includes everything, which makes everything one. Oneness, wholeness, right?
Yes.
People experiencing wholeness, try that.
People experiencing wholeness.
Cool. Good. Well, it feels good. Feels better. So can you identify the thought or the belief? How would you verbalize the belief that causes that feeling? You already kind of said it, but I want you to verbalize it again. I believe.
That the belief is that I'm in that moment, in that feeling, when I get the habit of getting the attention, then the feeling is that I'm not whole. Yeah, I'm not okay.
Cool.
Need somebody to be whole.
Sweet, and that feels bad, right?
Yeah, it feels bad. Yeah.
Yeah, it feels bad. Why?
Because it's like a addiction. It's like.
No, actually, that's not why it feels bad.
No.
No. Why does it feel bad? To believe that you're not whole. Think in terms of alignment to higher self. So your emotions always show you if your perspective is in alignment.
So just because it's a lie?
It's a lie. Did you say that?
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. It doesn't feel good because it's not true. It doesn't sync up with the frequency of truth. And that's the emotional guidance system. It lets you know when you're out of whack in your way of thinking and believing, so that you have an opportunity to investigate, identify, and course correct, or replace, or resolve. So we have a belief in your system that is out of alignment, it feels bad, and in order to feel better, instead of realigning it, what you have learned to do in the past is find circumstances that distract you from that, or that make you feel the opposite, right? So that there's a temporary gratification, which, if you remember Anurag's schedule, is in the column of consuming, right?
Right.
So because you haven't effectively, up to this point, dealt with the out of alignment belief, automatically the way that we're conditioned is to look outward to blame and or get fulfillment. So you're consuming, and it doesn't feel good. And so you're at this point where you're sick of yourself, where you're positively repulsed by your own out of alignmentness, and you want to clear this up. That's great. That's amazing. So this is the ground from which you can heal, and so it can go very quickly if only you sort of like clearly see what's going on. So give me a second. Do you believe in creation or God?
Yes.
Do you believe that it is whole?
It's whole.
Nice. Do you believe that all of its expressions are intentional?
What do you mean by intentional?
Meaning that, do you believe that there is something that ever happens, or do you ever believe that someone is born or something is created that was not intentional or purposeful?
I don't know.
Okay, cool. So let's take it one step down from that. Do you believe that God is the ultimate authority, the ultimate intelligence? Do you believe everything is intelligent?
Yes, I believe that. Yeah.
Beautiful. So then you must be too, right?
Yes.
And if there's only one, and that one is the supreme intelligence, and everything that could ever possibly be is created out of that intelligence in harmony with that one wholeness overseeing everything. So from the parts perspective, it might seem like things are fragmented. But from the whole's perspective, there's an intelligence to everything. Would you agree?
Agree.
Sweet. So that includes you, no?
Yes.
Nice. So everything about you is intelligent.
Yes.
Even when you're being stupid.
Yes.
So stupidity is still an intelligent expression of the one infinite creator that somehow is expressing and exploring the wholeness of creation.
Yes.
So there's literally nothing about you that is not whole, that is not integral to the whole of creation. Would you agree?
Yes.
Are you the body?
No, I don't think so. No.
Where does the belief come from that you're not good enough or not whole?
It's a thought emotion pattern.
Right. And it comes from taking on this body as if it's you, right? Like
yes.
People pointing fingers at you when you were younger and growing up, and like calling you names or whatever it is, right? Mistreating. So you start to feel like you're the body. It's like awareness when we're childlike is vast and open, and sure, we're looking through these eyes, but there's no words for identity. We're just like, oh. And then, we get a name and we start getting pointed to, and when we have little cramps and we cry, someone responds and takes care of our body and the cramps go away. So we get reinforced through conditioning, both physically, circumstantially, and verbally, and subliminally, and psychologically, and vibrationally, and emotionally, ancestrally, and sociologically, politically, ontologically. In all these ways, we're being conditioned to collapse around the sense of being here, being this body. Correct?
Correct.
Then, this body now feels like us. It's not. But now we associate with this. And so we go through life, and more people, we meet other dicks, like yourself. And they... At least dicks are honest, right? You can hardly blame a dick for not being honest. There's poing. There it is.
Thank you.
It's hard to hide. It's just so honest, just in your face, right there. Just the truth is naked, bare naked, right there. So then you meet other people, and they reinforce a certain belief system that as soon as you feel partial, you no longer feel a whole. So it's beautiful that your calling is about wholeness, or about connection, or oneness, or in that range. Because now you've taken on a fragmented identity which is so representative of humanity's theme, right? So literally what you've taken on in this life is a portion of the darkness that humanity is working with. It's working out. As a collective, our theme is to move from darkness into light right now, right around this time. So a lot of people that came into this world have deliberately taken on a portion of that collective, chose the perfect body, the perfect mind, the perfect birthplace, the perfect parents, the perfect initial life conditioning circumstances to take on a portion of that collective lack belief, that insecurity, so that they could bring light to it. And that's what you're doing now, because you're here in this retreat, you're sharing with honesty, you're making it transparent, which already increases the light that can reach those shadows. So actually you're standing up not just for yourself, but you're standing up for millions of people around the world, first of all. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Yes. Literally, our bodies and our minds and our conditioning and our parents and our environment, they are literally a crystallization of a portion of the darkness that lies within the collective consciousness of humanity that wants to be worked out. Literally, your incarnation has nothing to do with who you really are for most people, unless you're truly, truly native to this earth. But for most people that show up at my retreats, there is a large percentage, if not all, of the incarnation is actually about taking on a chunk of that abstract, energetic, collective energy, turning it into a body, a mind, and a conditioning. Literally, that's what it is. It's nothing to do with you. You're the light of God. You're the light of your soul. You are your calling. You are your free spirit. And so that free spirit takes on a cloak. It's like putting on a robe. That robe has the feeling of your body, the symptoms your body has, the skills, the failures or weaknesses. All that stuff is literally not you, right? But you've taken it on as you, so that from the inside out, you can wake up, increase the awareness and the brightness and the light, and literally turn the collective's darkness inside out into light through your own incarnation. Your incarnation is humanity's darkness, and you're transforming it into light.
Thank you.
Yeah. So even just to see that, even to acknowledge oneself in that way, rather than to identify with the shit that you take on, takes care of so much. You got to put it in a proper context. And it feels good because it's true. Who feels good about what I just shared? Even when you apply that to your own life. It's because it's true. A large percentage of the stuff you deal with on a day-to-day basis is because you have mistaken your incarnation to be who you are. Your incarnation belongs to humanity. Hand it back. But with more brightness and light and transformation than you took it with. But you literally took on a body, mind, environment experience. You took that on. That's part of this density. It's part of the substance that you agreed to play with. It's not you. When you die, it's not you. When you are alive, it's not you. But mistaken identity generates this sense of limitation, and then it becomes so much harder to see the brightness, because now you're becoming humanity. So it's so important to understand from a proper context why you are suffering to begin with, and why you took on the stuff you took on with to begin with. So thank you, first of all, for your service. How do you feel?
Thank you. I feel relieved.
Okay, beautiful. Cool. Yeah.
So I just wanted to ask you a question from that. How do you see yourself transforming it? Or do you know what, do you see the bigger picture now?
What do you mean by bigger picture?
Do you see what the motivation is to go to these other women and the backlash, like the rubber band effect that it has?
Well, I discussed it with Mirella, and then it comes up you have these how do you say it? Genetic things, and you also have the insecurity thing, looking for a mama or something to feel secure. But I don't know. Ask again, because.
Because I just wanted to add, I don't know, would you be open to what I saw when you initially spoke?
Sorry?
Would you be open to my reflection on what you were speaking of, like the underlying motivation?
Yes.
Okay. So just quickly, because I was either going to say it now or at another time, but anytime that... So I feel that you try to find love outside of yourself with these other women and then become resentful because it's ultimately not the truth. Because if you are all wholeness, if you are love incarnate, love ultimately comes from you, but then you're seeking love outside of yourself, you'll become resentful to anything that you're seeking outside yourself because it's not the truth. It doesn't matter what that woman, if that woman is beautiful or if she is a certain code to meet you perfectly, if the intention is out of alignment with the ultimate truth, it will always be sabotaged. It will always fall apart because of the misalignment. So I love the overview that you gave because it's like this whole collective thing. But I felt that just specifically for you, and maybe other people. So often we're looking for love outside of ourselves, but really we are love. All of the love, it's an illusion. All of the chemicals that you feel for someone when you're in their presence is just your body producing these chemicals, telling you that you're in love.
Yeah, I think you're right, but there's also the part of that it's like it feels really strong, the attraction to another person,
Yeah.
or to the other sex. In my case, can be the same sex. And then I have I can drop constantly looking for other women, but then you come in a relation, and also in a relation, I doubt what am I looking for, and then I'm happy that this girl, she looks for the big guy in me, not the small child. So
Yeah.
then she walks away, I'm not.
Because what is it that you need to transform this? Hypothetically, it would be the divine feminine within you, right? This embodiment of forgiveness and seeing you as a whole man. Yeah?
I think so, yeah.
So then you externalize that, and it becomes a physical representation of what you need to do for yourself, which is embody this woman inside of yourself, or this idea, this archetype, this thing, which is self-love, compassion, forgiveness, nurturance, nourishment. But if you don't have that, or you believe you don't have that, then you'll always seek it outside of yourself, and it will always elude you. It will always betray you, because that's not you. You are whole. You are loved. You are pure. You are a king. You are everything. Everything. Wow.
Thank you.
You're really channeling something that is very, very present in a lot of people, and I guess in your particular archetype, and a lot of guys. You know, again, I'm gonna see if there's more dicks in the room now, but who here of the men that are here recognize at least a big percentage of what he shared, operational in your own life or past? Cool. Well, I guess there aren't that many men in this room to begin with. So it makes sense. Maybe you guys were honest. Yeah. Also, I mean, there is different ways, right? One thing I also wanted to share with you is that so it's a balance. It's not outside yourself, and at the same time, also be mindful of where you might be preventing new energy flowing into your life, you know, in the form of an expanded relationship, or another relationship, or an open relationship, or an experiment, or whatever it might be that feels true for you. Some of these scenarios, they're just seeking and they're just chemicals firing off, but some of them might actually be, there might actually be something there to be exchanged. Doesn't have to be sexual, but could be. Doesn't have to be. Yeah. So to not give yourself permission at all to feel like a dick for even feeling that transmission happen is also not the proper way. You need to really open up and forgive yourself for having these experiences, these feelings, right? And understand that there is, you know, we're all carrying different frequencies and codes, and we can all help each other and heal each other so much more if we weren't so uptight about relationships. Doesn't mean you have to let your partner, or, you know, you don't have to have the agreement that you can sleep with everyone, but it's about being more open and trusting of one another, that there are connections outside of your relationship that have true benefit for the world and for each other, and even for your relationship. If she feels true resonance with spending some time with someone where some healing wants to happen, then that would only serve our relationship. It would only serve our connection. Whereas if I cut that off for her and it's authentic for her, then I am left with a partial version of myself rather than a whole version. So we need to expand those ideas. I know it's difficult because of how intimate this is interwoven with our sense of being the body, being separate, being limited. you know. But there's definitely a great need in relationships worldwide to be more open. Again, even if it's not sexual, the majority of transmissions that want to happen between people can occur non-sexually. It is just that, you know, we are kind of confused, and so we tend to confuse that with sexual energy. Well, it is sexual energy, but we're confusing that with that it needs to happen physically, when in most cases it doesn't have to. But then again, from a more absolute perspective, even if it does happen physically, there's nothing not innocent about that. It is just because of our agreements. It's just because of the way that we've perverted it. And so then we lock up our lower chakra, so to speak, and we start to feel bad about ourselves, and we start to be repulsed, but maybe it's not an authentic repulsion. Maybe it is an inauthentic repulsion. Maybe there is something there for you to explore. I just want to offer that too, that you shouldn't just block it off, because in society's point of view, it might seem like you're just needy, or you're just externalizing your truth, or you're just trying to make up for not feeling loved. Yes, there probably is some of that. Obviously, there is some of that exploration happening. But it doesn't mean that in an encounter with another woman that healing could not occur. That there is something authentic there. It's not that we have to all do it by ourselves inside of our heads, you know. We don't all have to figure it out in that way. Sometimes to be in embrace, to be in connection, to be in exchange, to be in transmission, to have different auric fields intertwine and connect and exchange codes, and then separate again most of the time to be back with your partner, or whatever the one is that is compatible with you long term, is very helpful and needed. So leave that open, you know.
That's what I tell her, like, I don't need sex, or I don't need to kiss, just to connect with somebody and feel like it's getting... So I tell her, like, she asked, oh, and did you hug? And I said, yeah. Oh, how many? I said, like, maybe 4 or 5. And then I say, like, it's maybe 4, 5, 6 breaths, but it's quite a long time. But it feels like it's healing parts of me. And but sometimes you see somebody standing, like, and it's more like, how do you say it? You said earlier, you said like a family. It's more like a family thing. It's not it's with sexual energy, maybe. Or with energy, but it's not a sexual thing, like, in this moment. Like.
Well, beautiful. Yeah, just see if you can extend, maybe you already have, but can you extend that conversation to your partner?
Yeah, of course. Because I'm working here, every time I see her, things are changing there. She's in the same, not the same process, but like it's...
beautiful.
It's beautiful.
So she's open to it?
Yeah, of course. Not of course, but yeah, she's open to it, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not that, of course.
No,
like,
it's quite
around the world, but that's beautiful, because that makes all the difference.
Yeah.
I mean, for you, in terms of healing and completing and transforming this chunk of humanity, it's beautiful and crucial that your partner is supportive of that process in you, you know. And as long as it's done with integrity and purity of intent, then anything should be up for discussion, really. Otherwise, it's not a relationship, it's a prison. So, great job, awesome. Thank you, good luck, enjoy. Let me just take the time. Yep, the really excited woman. By the way, Jocelyn and I might not be that relevant because only for very few people, but we are giving an exclusive small group luxury retreat together in Sedona, at a resort, August 6th through 9th. So if you're interested, just check out bentinhomassaro.com/events, and it's called the Lion's Gate event, the rise of shepherding consciousness. So it is all about really emptying yourself, becoming fully of service, and relationship things can come into, because we'll be guiding it together. Where are you? Yeah.
My question is,
hold the microphone closer to your mouth, please.
My question is...
hold the microphone a little closer.
Like this?
Yeah, kind of like point it more at it. Yes,
like this? Okay, yeah, I can hear it. I was wondering if it's possible that during your spiritual path that you fall back in your path, and that you might not be ready for the things that you experience. I tell you why I ask you this. It's already about 25 years ago. I had this period of time that I experienced a lot of, I was in a period of spiritual growth. I was in a group of spiritual people, and I experienced a lot of bliss, unity, compassion, love, unity, and I got involved with this a so-called spiritual teacher, and and then
cue lift to tell the tale.
things started to. I got in a sort of a roller coaster that all the experiences intensified a lot, and
oh, really?
Yes.
That's surprising.
And then at a certain moment, I felt that I had this experience.
So just to be clear for a second, you were intimately engaged with that person, right?
Yes, sort of. We didn't have a relationship.
Okay.
But yeah, things happened between us. Yeah.
Things happen, you know.
Yeah. And I think things happened to me that I wasn't ready for, because at a certain moment I felt this a pouring of lava. I call it like a liquid stream of love coming out of my heart. It was beautiful. I never experienced it afterwards. And after a couple of days, all of a sudden I felt my heart collapse, and it closed. It was like a door closed, and that has ever been since, and that's sort of a great grief of my life, because I do not, it's like I lost a part of myself, because this unconditional love was really me before, and I just don't understand what happened. And I wonder all the time, what did I do wrong? Did I do something wrong? Was this spiritual, so-called spiritual teacher, because he lost his abilities afterwards, did he do something with me that I didn't understand? Yeah, I don't understand what happened. Can you explain this, maybe? Do you know what I mean?
Tell me a little bit more about the experience of the liquid love coming out of your heart, and what was your experience, both within yourself and being with, I'm assuming it's a him?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Well, we had this sort of a relation during a couple of months, and I had this very, very great longing for what you would call the melting of souls, to become one with this person. But this person didn't really understand. He thought that it was about sex, or I felt.
Classic.
I felt like I had no control about what was going on with me, because he sort of hypnotized me. That's how I felt.
Well, would you mind sitting here?
Okay.
Can we bring up a chair here? Or let's see. Please continue.
where was I? Yeah, I had this great longing for a melting of souls, and that was also an issue in the spiritual group where we were in, so we talked a lot about that, although I also felt talking about love is not the same as love. Every time I met this person afterwards, I had these very intense feelings of bliss. Yeah, what I just said before, unity. But there was also a great fear inside of me. I don't I don't understand neither, because one time he was touching my heart, and I felt like I was dying. I felt the fear of I was going to die. And well, and then we had sex for a certain moment, and then afterwards I had this feeling of this liquid love that came out of my heart, like lava. It was not a feeling of love, it was almost physical, a physical stream of love lava, which was very beautiful. But after a couple of days later, then this happened with my heart, that my heart collapsed. It was like the door closed and it never opened again. And then I thought, what did I do wrong? What did I do something wrong? Did this person, did he do something with me? And now, afterwards, I had this feeling that I've been trying to find an answer of what happened to me. I did pilgrimages, I did silent retreats, I was willing to crawl on my knees around the world to open my heart again. And every time when I talk with people about it, I only can cry. And I'm so sick of that.
Sounds like you have a big heart, though. Desire to open your heart, to crawl on your knees around the world. Sounds like a lot of heart. So what's your experience of the heart being closed? Can you describe that just during everyday life since that moment? How is it,
I never felt love anymore.
You've never felt love anymore? For a
Not
person?
unconditional love. I can feel sympathy and yeah, in a certain degree I can feel love, but not the way I could before, and that feels as a great loss of who I am.
What do you think you lost in your experience?
My capacity to love.
Is that true?
Probably not, but it's blocked. It's I just don't know what to do.
What's your most loving moment you can remember after that experience?
I remember that a few times I experienced feelings that were not my own feelings, but there were feelings from, maybe it's strange to say, but beings from an outer world. It felt not like human feelings. But it was like it came from outside towards me. It
came from outside the body to the body, but that's all you. It's all your experience. You created that. Okay, just so you know. That was all happening inside of you. You were allowing that to come into your experience, into your being. What was the nature of these beings? What did it feel like?
Ancient beings. One ancient being. I don't know if I should go into that.
Okay, why not? You don't have to. I'm just curious why you wouldn't want to go into it.
I've been in a group. This is a long time ago already. With a trans medium, a spiritual group, and this group had contact with beings from out of our own planet, and also with a being from Atlantis. And I felt feelings coming from them towards me. It didn't happen very often. Sounds like.
Well, can you remember that feeling? Can you remember what that was like, that moment, or those moments?
Yeah.
Can you feel that streaming into your heart?
I find it difficult to connect with it.
You said that this man lost his abilities afterwards?
He was like a spiritual teacher. And I lost contact with him, but I know that he lost his lucidity, or I don't know exactly how to explain.
Have you met someone that you have felt had the same architecture, like character, as he did?
Afterwards?
Yes.
No, never. No.
Yes.
No.
Yeah, you have very precious codes.
What do you mean by that?
So, like when we look at the story of Jesus and Mary Magdalene,
Yeah, cuddle party.
How many are familiar with Mary Magdalene's story outside of the Bible? Raise your hand. Okay, so that's quite a few. Great. So for the ones that don't, the story of Mary Magdalene was distorted by the patriarchy, of course. No, I'm just kidding. But she was a, so they call her a prostitute in the Bible, but actually she was a temple priestess, which there were women back in that time that would hold space for healing for men. So they would offer themselves in counsel, or they would offer themselves, meaning like they would just be with a man, and their presence would offer this man to step away from war, to step away from the idea of separation, to step into his higher gifts, to become a leader, to become a king, to become, etc. Yeah. So, and what was unique about these women is that they would not marry, and so they would not commit to one man, but they would offer themselves to many different men. And this, over the course of history, has become distorted and belittled. But women and men have codes within their sexual nature, but within their bodies, of divine love, divine union. And these codes unlock deep energetic pools or centers within the body that offer these like energies, or if you will, like deeper callings to come through so that we can embody wholeness. Yeah. Yeah. So often what happens is that these codes, and that you see this throughout our society, where we have the story of two coming together and creating an ultimate union, and that's a thread, a theme throughout history and throughout romance, etc. The ultimate goal of this is to create union. But what happens with us is that we forget this, that this is like the deeper goal of things, yeah. And so the heart gets all this energy and transmutation, like transmutation, but then it closes. Yeah. So some of you may be experiencing this deep remembering of this. And so the heart opens and the gateway of fire comes and the sacred flame of the heart is ignited and you feel pain and release, yeah, of all the stuff that was there, that you had locked down, that you had not given yourself permission to release and give to another because of these agreements and these betrayals, etc. And remember about the codes of embodying these different parts of the collective. So it's an echo from these deep dissonances in history. But we are here to remember that this gateway of the heart is powerful, and that you are the embodiment of it, and that you can heal that space. You don't need to go anywhere else. And when you do, there will be that sacred other that comes in.
Women of this world, you have been through a lot.
And men too. Thank you.
It's okay, we can heal the collective through our microcosm here. Just acknowledge, let it be okay. Just acknowledge the genetic imbalance that we've all inherited, passed down through the ages. Allow it. You are channels. You are alchemists. So all of you, men and female, allow the acknowledgement to come to the surface and be transformed. Hold light for it. Hold space for it. Be confident that it is being cleansed and healed, and that the end result is healing for all. You all carry little bits of this information. Some of you more intimately than others. But just feel whatever's going on in the body. Breathe. Bring prana, bring light into that pattern, into those cells. And there's beautiful space holders all around here. Those that feel really bright and really clear and really clean, feel free to hold that space. Feel free to scent that space. And those who are feeling the emotions and repercussions of millennia of abuse and misunderstanding, can allow that to come forth and be healed for the benefit of all. This life was never completely about you, so it's okay. You didn't lose out on an extremely pleasurable priestess life. You were here for the purpose of channeling this.
Yes.
And part of that is to take on, to assume the position of being blocked, the position of being imbalanced.
But the truth is that you are love. And your capacity to love is your greatest gift, you know. And just because he didn't receive it, you know, both of you were affected. I feel that. But you still have these codes of light, because that's what you are. That's what we all are.
Now you say exactly the thing what happened. He didn't receive it. That was the pain.
Yeah.
And I thought it was all my fault.
it's true, you know, a lot of the pain we each carry is not necessarily our own. It's good to understand that, to have that context.
So, I want you all to, can we go into, if you'll close your eyes.
Whatever you prefer, whatever feels good.
I think it would be good for everybody. And if your feet aren't on the ground, then placing your feet on the ground. And this is a choice for you, but placing your hands, so left hand on, for women it would be where the womb is. For man, it's just going to be, you know, like 3 fingers below your navel. So just placing your left and then your right hand over it. So like this. And closing your eyes. And with an inward focus, just pulling your attention to the center of, if you're a woman, your womb. And for a man, it's going to be this center that's called the lower dantian. So it's just right below the navel. And I want you to picture, if you can, a red glowing light that's seated in the very center of this beautiful place within you. This crimson light glows with warmth, nourishment, fertility, abundance. Like fertile soil. It is deep and vast, holistic, like the qualities of the earth, like soil. I want you to feel into the earth, the nature of the rocks, the stones, the lava, the molten rock, the eons and eons of material within you. And start to flow that energy, or placing attention as a downward stream down through your legs and into the earth. Down into the mantle. Feel how your feet are being held. Feel the magnetism of the floor, how it's just cradling you. And feel that grounded energy start to draw up once again back into your feet, pouring into this center. Feeling the emptiness in that space. Focusing again on the color of red. Now placing the vibration of what it feels like to come home. In that center. Whether it's to friends or family, or when you completely accept yourself. Placing that intention into the space. That feeling of unity, connection. Remembering that we are one unified tribe. Expanding that red light out now to your neighbors, imagining that this red light is just now seeping out, expanding and pulsating to your neighbors around you. Expanding into the room slowly, all together. And just witnessing the feelings, sensations, that arise naturally. We are one unified organism. We thrive when we feel into the collective threads that each one of us have been interwoven to create the larger tapestry of existence. You have a purpose. You have a mission. You have a unique code that ultimately, when you serve that, when you drop into that knowing, that embodiment, you create healing and connection and expansion for everyone around you. You are magnificent and magnanimous. We are all in this together. So when you're ready, just slowly coming back to awareness of space around you. You can open your eyes.
There's enough space, don't worry. This is beautiful. You're being of service to everyone.
I realize that. Thank you.
Take a deep inhale as one. Holy crap. And everyone just for a moment visualize this woman having a really amazingly loving, abundant life of love just pouring through her all the time, being generated from her all the time, and her fully enjoying that, feeling the worthiness of that, that she's worthy to be a channel of God's light and love once again, that she feels that herself. She can connect to that, make contact with that. See her heart open. As this represents humanity. Can humanity open its heart right now? Can humanity get over its insecurities and transform its sense of lack of worthiness into connectedness, into confidence that this universe is infinite, eternal, and inclusive of all parts? All parts are perfect. They are the whole, like a hologram.
Te aroha, te whakapono, me te rangi mari e, tātou tātou e.
Get a room, guys. Oh, these teary eyes. Thank you all for participating in this spontaneous channeling of humanity. Yeah. Beautiful. Doesn't the planet feel a little bit lighter now? Thank you very much. Thank you, Jocelyn. Oh, don't worry, we have a room. So one of the first things that I texted to Jocelyn was, if I had the chance, and this was when I just met her and saw her a few times, just observed her, noticed her. I said, if I had to choose between my teachings reaching all corners of this earth or everyone being exposed to your essence, I would choose the latter. Because that's what humanity needs, you know. This purity, innocence, open heart, love, wisdom. It's beautiful. Thank you. So just to harmonize whatever remnants are there, confusions, let's do 3 ohms together. So just to get comfortable. And then we'll follow it with 2 minutes of silence. So no 4th ohm. 3 ohms. And as beautiful as it was, then silence for about a couple minutes. And then honestly, you're just free. And is there anything happening tonight? Or is it just, it's my session, right? Are there any announcements? If so, let's do that right now. Or are we good?
Only that Felix is having sessions.
Okay, so you can meet up with Felix again to try out the machines.
And the bar will be open at 10.
The bar will be open at 10, and we'll meet here at 8:30 for, for what? Let's see. For me, it's all the same. I can just be here if you guys would like that. But if there's a vast majority of you that would like your evening completely free, that's also cool. It's been an intense week so far. No? Oh, okay. All right, all right. What? So you're gonna have to wait, baby. Yeah. No, that's perfectly fine. I'm excited. I'll just be here, and we'll see what happens. So I'll see you here at 8:30. So for now, relax, take a deep breath, and just start with a sigh. So take it. How many? 3 ohms. So everyone, take a deep breath. And feel the harmonization of the group. God damn it. All right, everyone, breathe in and move as one group in the Om. Take a deep breath.
I experienced also the grief yesterday afternoon in the ignored female sexuality. Historically, and in addition to the man before that about his dick behavior, I have been the opposite, the anti-dick. I was the castrator of dicks. You are about 28?
29.
29? Imagine now 6 years, 5 years waiting, and then your first sex. That's what I did.
Nice.
So it took a few years to figure out things. I think I'm quite healed now.
Can we get a chair on stage? Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the anti-dick.
You cannot, in other words, you can say pussy.
Pushy or pussy?
Pussy.
Pussy.
The female part. That's an anti-dick, isn't it? That's the problem with me. I always start a sort of humoristical approach, and then I avoid my heart space speaking too easily. But it's a part of the heart too, I think, humor. My first, well, what do I really want to say? It's about a great confusion. When your girlfriend was talking about the meaning of sexuality and these priestesses, I think it would have prevented an enormous amount of confusion in my life when I had a few sessions with such a priestess when I was 24. And this crazy Christianity I got in, this is fundamentalistic evangelicals, a sort of a plastic solution for life. Really, I died. It was so confusing, because the natural instinct, the essence is, when a woman is attractive sexually, then it's not love. That's the idea, because that's an instinct. So it's not allowed, so you search for a non-attractive woman. Again. Then it's purity. Do I hit a point? Or am I the only victim of this? Who recognized this? Yeah.
What did you say?
Who recognized this idea? Not many. I knew I was a specialist. Perhaps some live streamers. God bless you. So I would like to have some more explanation about sexuality. What happened in these priestesses? What's the meaning? No, that's the second part. I want to share a little bit about the pain which forced me to come forward. I have a girlfriend. I had a girlfriend. It's half a girlfriend now. I discovered she was a person who explain to me which these ideas are motivating me to choose the soul. It's about the soul in Christianity. It's not about the body. It's purity. You know, all this stuff. So it's clear to me, and then I say I cannot, because this woman is. I'm a sort of a painter. I look very well to the lines of the body. I would have been a quite good painter, I think, in the 17th century or the Degas period or something like that. And so when I have sex with my girlfriend, the lines disturb me. Not very, but yeah, somehow. And then the day after, I think, what have I done? So it's about the emotional guiding system. So I'm figuring it out, what is allowed, what's true, etc. But behind all this story, then yesterday you explained we are taking a package, most of us, from the collective Earth homework to do, and I took the part of the Inquisitor, something like that. I can understand now more what's happening. But I'm not so sure about that. It gives.
Can everyone hear him? Not quite. Yeah? Is it possible to turn the volume up a little bit, or does it go feedback?
Shall it talk louder?
Good.
Okay. So I'm trying to. Now the woman is the girlfriend is very creative in planning and in proposing scenes. Now she proposes that I hire a room in her house, a part of her house, as a past friend, as a friend, not as a lover, but as a friend. But I feel there is something. I'm invited to go along the routine of others, what is spoken yesterday. That's, I think, one of the main courses I got in this evangelical distorted story. I'm too yielding. I can't say no. I don't listen to my own voices. Something like that. So it's a combination of two lines. Being yielding, stubborn, and idiotic theology, which is all over. But now, intuitively, I felt already in a young age about the real things, but was not allowed. In Christianity and Calvinism, you have to follow the rules, more or less. Economy, be brave, be an honest middle-class person. Be an honest middle-class person. And my girlfriend has a sort of this role, because that's in my experience to be an honest middle-class person is decent, is nice, is good, is valuable. So she helps me with going on my way in my profession. So I think it's a good woman. It's a sort of mother role. So again, no sexuality. So that was the story. So I was interested, it resonated me a little bit deeper, what is sexuality about? And the place in truth, in human male, female happening.
Awesome, thank you. So for me, the purpose behind sexual interaction predominantly is the exchange of information, energetic information. So when we feel attraction, generally speaking, there's something there that wants to be transferred. Now on the most instinctual level or the most physical level, that attraction means an exchange of genetics. right? Like I need to plant my seed, so to speak. So that's I think where a lot of this idea of impurity or sin or it being unreasonable or unsociable to have sex with everyone you feel attracted to comes from. But then we limit that, we limit our freedom of expression and the exchanging of those codes. If we call all types of attraction impure, right, then we'll be missing out on spiritual expansion. We'll be missing out on acceleration. Because beyond the physical genetic attraction level, you will often be attracted to someone, and there might be components to it that are still physically there too, where the instinctual brain recognizes a particular form or recognizes the conducivity, like that is conducive to spreading your genetics, survival. So there may be that quality still present. It's not a bad quality, it's just, you know, you don't want it to run your life, obviously. But there's many types of attraction, so to speak, or levels from which that magnetism can come, right? And so a lot of the times when we feel an attraction to someone, and it's not just physical, but there's something about that, something about their aura, something about their field, their energetic field or imprint, or the theme that they came in with. There's something about that that can complement or amplify or accelerate something in your field, or you feel attraction because you can amplify or accelerate something in their field, or both ways. And so the nature of true sexual attraction, assuming that to some extent at least, you have not necessarily transcended, but you're aware of the instinctual response. You're aware of when it's just physical arousal, which again, there's nothing wrong with that. But you probably don't want that to run your life, your every decision, right? At least not in our current society. The way it's set up, it wouldn't be very healthy, I guess. But if you are at least aware of that, aware of the purely physical genetic urges, and you're able to hold that in a certain space of love and compassion and not having to react to it, not having to act it out, then you, in a sense, move on to the next stage of being able to be more fully available to that resonance, to that gravitational field, to that polarity. You know, if you meet someone that's of a different polarity energetically, there will be a magnetism. So this can take many different shapes or forms or ways. One example is that and it usually includes more than just one level. It's a combination of quote-unquote codes, as Jocelyn calls it, or imprints and information. Thank you. And so, but one example could be that you have a certain lack belief that you grew up with, right? So there's a lack of perhaps confidence in yourself or self-esteem. There's a lack of self-esteem. And here's this woman or guy that has a high maturity or high levels of self-esteem. It's possible that there is because there is a deficiency in one spot, or like a polarity, a negative polarity and a positive polarity there, it's possible for that to generate an attractiveness, even if without that polarity, you may not even be that attracted to that person physically, right? But because this polarity is in the field, you will still feel an attraction. Who here has ever experienced an unusual level of attraction to someone that if you saw a picture of them, you would never say, oh, that's my type, or that's who I feel really aroused by, right? And then who's had the experience that after the codes are exchanged, you perhaps think, well, actually, I'm not that attracted to you. Right? So and this can have different influences or causes. But one thing is that it's not always the purpose of when you're attracted to someone, when you feel that connection, the purpose is not always for that to become a relationship. Sometimes the power of that is simply to exchange codes, to meet information, information meet information. And when that is complete, then naturally, since consciousness does not do anything that's redundant or unnecessary, that attraction will no longer be there because there is no real reason to be together. Now, it might be that one person is attached to the idea of the relationship, or they latch on ideas of like how beautiful it was and therefore you have to do it again. But essentially a lot of us are walking around with so many polarities that could be complemented or met through the sexual energy transfer, even if it's not actually physically executed. But sometimes that is the best way to actually complete that package or that information. But yeah, there's lots of codes that can be complemented, that can be used to heal and empower each other, that we are not taking action on because simply it's not part of our consciousness, it's not part of what we allow, right? So yeah, the summary for me would be that the main purpose behind sexual attraction or sexuality in general is the exchanging of information. And if it's done more consciously and if it's in a more partnership situation, or even when it's not, it is also about being able, when someone is conscious, to be able to learn to expand oneself in different ways. So you could call this pleasure, I guess, but it's more than just pleasure. It is the conscious, deliberate interaction with sexual energy, even past the point of necessarily, quote unquote, needing those codes to be exchanged. So now it's for the purpose of deliberately using the act and the sexual energy transfer to guide it in certain ways or to learn from it in certain ways. So the purpose is exchange of information and the growth or the expansion of consciousness. And the healing too. Healing is a strong component of that exchanging of information. Yeah, real quick.
You mentioned different polarities. Can you address relationship between the same sexes, male, female, female?
Sure. Well, so what I said kind of already explains that, which is that you can have different polarities. Yeah, in different sexes, the physical body doesn't limit you from activating all kinds of polarities, all kinds of different charges, negatives or positives, so to speak. And so if you meet someone that complements that field, that is of the opposite polarity, even if it's in the same gender, then you will find that attractive. Who here, even though they don't consider themselves gay and are really generally straight, have felt attraction to the same sex, but only with a certain amount of people, with a specific person. Cool. So it's very common, right? For some people it becomes more a lifestyle or a predominant orientation, but it's very common. You want to add anything to that so far?
Yeah, I was curious. Test.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go.
I was curious how it ended with Jesus and Mary Magdalene.
Cool.
If that is it the real story?
Beautiful. Yeah, thank you. Okay. Sexual energy is the magnetism that creates the pull back to oneness. So that's why the polarity is so important, is because it's like two puzzle pieces coming together to orient back to the whole. And this isn't necessarily even, like he was saying, sexual energy. And apart from that, sexual energy is inherent with life. It is the primal force that drives evolution and drives procreation, proliferation and expansion. So, like for example, in Chinese medicine, they'll ask you what your libido is like to gauge your health. Not saying that not feeling sexual doesn't, that doesn't mean necessarily that you're unhealthy, but this sense of like, this sense of pulsating undercurrent of life, they talk about generating in the lower dantian area, the area that we worked with yesterday, we poured red light into. This area interconnects all of us. And it's the driving force of humanity. So there's so much there, meaning that I think the misunderstanding or the etymology behind the actual word sin, the ignorance behind sexuality, is that it is when you feel it arise in your body that it is to be acted out, when actually it's just a pulsating vibration that is coursing through your life and through your trajectory. So again, in Chinese medicine, they talk about the birth gateway and how when your mother and father came together, the imprint of your soul comes in. And at that time, all of the primal force is imprinted in your body. These are the codes that I'm talking about. They're the codes from all of your ancestors and beyond what we can. And this encodement drives your being, your essence, what we would call your calling here. So it's a breathing, moving, pulsing essence in your life, and not necessarily to be only looked upon when someone is outside of you. If you close your eyes, you can feel if you're activating or activated this pulsating force inside of you. It's that life force, that primal life force energy. So there is a purity there because it is it's like the unconscious realm, and that's where the miscrepancies can come in, is because it's so subtle. So anytime that there's that seeking outside of self, because it's the driving force of evolution, there can be distortion that comes into play. So it's good to get in touch with that primal force. It's good to get in touch with your own sexuality, with your own relationship to feeling infused with this force of life, and knowing what that drive, what that magnetism, where it's taking you. That's why, again, the calling work is so important. That main point, that, what did you call it? It's like the arrow that you're constantly driving. And then you can compare if a person or an environment or a decision is in alignment with that whole driving force. Yes. So with Mary Magdalene and Jesus, so I'm so glad that you asked about this, because it's a really powerful story. So in the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Bible that we know today is not actually the entire text. How many people are aware of this? Raise your hand. Great. Okay, cool. So there are lost texts, and they're very amazing to read into. And they reveal that Mary Magdalene was one of Jesus's closest disciples. And she was a very powerful woman. So the priestess line or lineage was all about holding space for these men that have powerful impulses of life, callings, that primal force that I was just talking about. And as a woman, because of the nature of the womb, holding the energy of expansion of that imprint, because the masculine energy is like an imprint of penetration. Yeah, well, obviously, but so it's a more exerted force. It's a more seen force. It's a more acted upon. It's active in nature. Not saying that women cannot be this, because we're both the embodiment of masculine and feminine, talking about those different polarities. But in general, these are the two dualistic components within the universe, and this is what causes the magnetism. So to create a greater polarity, when you look back in history, it was often that you had these archetypes. So you had the king or the pharaoh or whoever it was that was leading the people, and they were this driving force. They held the calling of the collective, of the entire mission, and they would empty themselves in a way to see the greater mission of everyone involved, to carry forth this collective protection, guidance, etc. And so the woman was this space to then expand and deepen that understanding of what that calling was. So the priestesshood was this, like they would have this temple, and the men of that time that were of influence, that were, maybe warlords or even kings, pharaohs, etc., they would go to these women that were emptying themselves and embodiments of God and the void, ultimately, limitless space and expansion, and they would offer them healing through dance, through song, through nurturance, through aesthetics, through beauty. And these men would find solace in that. So Mary Magdalene was one of these. She was actually quite prominent in that time, and she was so this was a taboo kind of placement, not in a sense that it was looked down upon, because women honored that place too, but it was just like it took a lot of energy to step out of the normal being owned by a man. Because if you look at the Bible, the typical role of the woman would be she was bought by another family, kind of like an asset. So then you disappear into the union. So this was totally different, because the priestesshood was a woman who married herself to God, therefore did not need a man, and was offering herself as this embodiment of God for the man. So she was walking around with her, she was never married, she was walking around with her own power, and it's a very, so this is like an archetypal energy, right? So when she saw Jesus, maybe many of you know the story, but she washed his feet with her hair, you know that story. But basically she fell to his feet and she saw the light of God in him and the potential for his codes, his information to be clear and to embody oneness. So then she offered her codes, her information that she had learned since she was 4 years old into this priestesshood, to offer him the ability to expand into his light body. So that is what eventually happened from that union, is that she followed him in complete and absolute devotion and saw the deeper codes that he had to be the light, the love, the embodiment of God, the oneness. And then offer that space for him to expand. And as you know, most of you, he was able to expand into his light body, dematerialize, and levitate, if you will, transcend death. And then from there be a symbol of humanity, of being able to transcend our own death in whatever capacity. So after that, what's beautiful about Mary Magdalene is that she became a bodhisattva. So she, instead of activating her light body and following him, she decided to be the embodiment of love on the planet, and she took a pilgrimage to France. And so if you want to visit the sacred caves in France, that's actually where she was harbored. She did a lot of her service in silence. It's only now becoming witnessed by the Catholic Church. They have a whole day that is recognizing her as a saint. So this is being cleansed for us, ladies. We don't have to bear this burden anymore. It's being seen. It's being honored. It's being remembered. So, and that is the power. That's the power of the feminine essence in a man and in a woman, is that silence, that underlying. If the masculine way would be, oh, you have a sickness, let's have a surgery. Let's you know, let's go in there and fix it. The woman's way is going to be, let's prevent it from even showing up. But how can you see something? Like, how can you, so there's no credit involved. Do you know what I mean? There's no, if a disease never presents itself, how do you even know that the medicine works? So it's an unseen force. It's a mystery. It's an enigma. And so these are two different archetypal energies that I think are quite profound to feel into within yourself. The masculine force, the light body, the activator, the action seeker, and the witnessing, the nurturance, the silent power. And when these two come together, the attainment of Brahman or God, God's self.
Thank you. I understand that Mary Magdalene went to France after Jesus was died.
Yeah.
So I wonder how the relation should have looked if he had stayed alive.
Well, she did his work, and his work was so imprinted. It's like what we, the seed of his existence. Like the reason why I think all of us are called to have a calling is because a vibrational imprint of a person is more powerful than their physical presence. If you've ever noticed that, the majority of the time, it's the energy that someone embodied that proliferates their body after they die. So it's the consciousness that we embody in the physical vessel that then echoes throughout time and space, because it's the vibration. So he no longer needed to stay around. Like the physical act of him being here would be contradictive to...
Yeah, okay. Contradictive, yes. It's about contradictions.
Because if you see this, his work still lives on today. Like, it's almost like he's here with us. I'm still talking about him. You know, we are still feeling his archetype because of that embodiment, which is beyond the body. All of us here on that mission.
Thank you. And now I understand this more. But this added story that he died for our sins as a sort of a juridical action, that's quite nonsense.
Well,
it's more direct, existential. What happened?
Yeah.
Something, huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
In the field, to bring nonsense back and reality again back.
But I mean, the coolest part is that so a lot of, the traditional Christian lineages, the churches and things, they focus on Christ's death and they glorify that.
Yeah, and guilt.
Yeah, but what's interesting about that is that the sacral center, so if you look into this, he just said guilt, so they focus on guilt and shame. So if you look at the opposite of the sacral center, like when it's in its shadow, the keynote or the negative feeling that arises when you are not in alignment with your sexual integrity is going to be guilt and shame.
Uh-huh. Wow. So
it's really interesting. And what I really love to focus on is not the death, because it is in a way it's like this archetype that we were talking about, like the ego death. But then he rises again. So it's like, Like
yeah, it's more a children's story made of it.
What?
They made it more of a sort of a children's story of it, while it in depth is more like we think in this Bentinho area.
Yeah.
But it was not to grasp for most people, so they make a children's story of it. Isn't it?
Hi. I love your energy together. It's really, yesterday was amazing, the grief. I could really feel it. And I'm carrying these codes like many women carry the Mary Magdalene codes and the Jesus. I always thought, because I don't know if you've read the book, the Magdalene manuscript. It's amazing. They describe where she goes to France. I live since 12 years in France, so I've visited all the places. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. And so somewhere there, they say they had a daughter, Sarah, and you can go to this place. It's called Sainte Marie de la Mer. Yeah, and they have this goddess there, and she's brown skinned, and it's like a wooden doll, and the gypsies come in every year. It's amazing energy. And so somewhere, I have the feeling Jesus died. Like, this is what they describe. And I teach about this stuff. And they describe that they did this sort of Egyptian tantra together. So there's this black snake and a golden snake, and she would bring them up, and he would bring them up. Yeah, and then they would send them into each other and then bring that up. And they describe this in this manuscript. Really changed my life. So, and there they say, to answer the sir here, they say that he did the work as a resurrection. We needed somebody in the Akashic records with pure codes, pure everything, to actually show his resurrection. So that's why, but he needed her. They were both. It's like both two avatars, so they came both. So it's never been only story about him, as you said. Yeah, amazing. So they were charging his light body, his ka and his ba, Merkaba, like light body. Yeah. And they were charging that so much that he could actually do the resurrection, make it like a light path that people can follow. And so, yeah, I just wanted to share that. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Okay, is it on?
Just come stand on the stage if you don't mind.
Okay, okay. So yesterday there was this one man.
And can you hold the microphone?
So yesterday there was this man who talked about his girlfriend and that he's attracted to other women. That man, and yeah,
that man.
and then many men agreed that they feel the same. And so I know how you can heal it.
Sorry?
I know how you can heal it, so I can just tell you if you want. So I said
she knows how they can heal it.
Oh, cool.
Yes.
Okay.
So we have another facilitator, so every dick in the room just...
Yeah, so this is the healing for all the dicks. And the anti-dick, yeah. So when you're a man, I'm really shaking a little, I'm sorry. So I have to lean on because I can't really stand. Oh. So when you're a man in our society, then you will, even if you know it or not, you experienced emotional deprivation your entire life. Yeah. So you are born into the world, and everybody believes that because you're a man, you shouldn't have emotions, and you shouldn't be cuddled, and you're not allowed to cry. And so you get less cuddles when you're a boy, and when you're a boy, people smile at you less. And your teachers smile at you less, you get worse grades at school, and boys will be boys, and big boys don't cry. And so you hear all these things that people say to you, don't have emotions, don't have emotions. Emotions are for women, and emotions are weak, and you're not allowed to be weak because then you're not a man, right? And so and every year goes by, and in every year that goes by, you get less emotional attention than women, right? And every year that goes by, you learn to suppress your emotions even more. And by the time you're an adult, your heart is an emotional black hole. It's so deep, and it can never, it can't be filled. But you learn that all the emotions are with the women, right? So you look to the women to get your heart filled with emotion. But black holes are endless. And so so it doesn't matter how many women you accumulate, it will never be filled. fulfilled. It's never enough. And even if one woman gives her entire love to you and gives her life for you and has your children and does your laundry, then then it's not enough. It's still not enough. And even if you have 6 wives and 100 mistresses, it's not enough. You will never come to a point where it's enough. Even when you're 80 years old, it's never going to happen. And the reason why the woman can't feel this emotional hole for you is because they don't know how it feels. Because when you're a girl, you get all the emotional attention you want, and then you're a woman and you get all the emotional attentions you want from your girlfriends, right? But when you're a man, you only get like beer and football, and those things, they don't fill your heart. Like I know. So like I know, and it's really sad, but I know so many guys who have no solution to their emotional problems except alcohol. Because all they can do together is drink together and sedate each other, but they can't help each other, right? And so if you want to heal yourself, so if the men want to heal, if you want to fill up the emotional black hole and be released from this idea that you constantly have to chase women to fill it up, then you have to turn to other men, because only the other men understand how you feel. And the woman doesn't understand how you feel. I mean, we can logically understand it, but we didn't experience it, right? So if you want to heal each other, then you have to build emotional support structures among men, and you have to exclude the women from these structures. And so it's really important that then you can tell each other how you feel, and it's not weak or unmanly, that you can cry in front of each other, because crying is releasing of pain through tears, the eyes. And you have to hold each other in the way that you were never held in your life. So why don't you do that now? So like all the men. So no, I mean it. Could all the men hold each other? Like, see, you stay sitting, you don't do anything. You too. You too. You. Sorry? Yes, there's still a man left and nobody's hugging you. Oh yeah, and him. Can please someone hug can you just hug the anti-dick?
Can I add something?
No, wait. I'm not done.
It's also a question to receive it. Huh? My mind comes in.
So I want to say one more thing and then I go. So I also want to ask the men to teach your sons. And there was this man yesterday whose biggest desire was to live fatherhood. Where is that man? And you have 30 years of meditation experience, right? So why don't you make a soul school for boys and you teach them all these things that you know, like because they might not get it at home, right?
Thank you.
Does anyone know why that resonated so deeply? Does any? Okay. Yay! Yeah.
So my calling is that people experience truth.
Does anybody have an idea of why that was so deeply resonating? Because it's true. Yeah, but so, like we were talking about, like in a male-to-male relationship or a woman-to-woman, that there's different polarities within us. The reason why that works for men to go to men is because then they're holding their inner feminine. And that's why it makes sense at that point, then the woman doesn't have to do it. But at the same time, the woman needs an inner man to hold her inner emotions, to be able to know where she needs to go, etc. Not overcompensation. We have a massive epidemic at this point of women being over-masculated because the man, yada, 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 right? But it's time to get past that. So there has to be an equality within first. So there needs to be the healthy woman inside every man, and inside every woman, a healthy masculine essence. Yeah. So ladies, go get into football and drink your beer too. No, I'm just kidding. That's not what being a man is about. But yeah. So it's that unity, that return to oneness within yourself.
How do you feel? Yeah, it's on.
I feel more informed. Yeah, that's really a part of it. There was so much bullshit spread over in the ages about this.
Well, yeah.
So it's important. You should write a book or make videos, or etc.
Well, if you want to distort the collective, you go to the primal essence that moves everything, So that's kind of the imprint of like why they've. It's such an. So it's like what he was talking about, poison the water, like poison the main like source of the water. I don't know, and then it goes throughout the entire system. If the primal essence of the collective is sexual energy, where does the deepest distortion go if you want control over people?
Exactly, that's what the church did.
Yeah, but it's what we do too, and manipulations between relationships make people feel guilty or shameful to control them, et cetera, et cetera. So the cleansing of this is to be in integrity, to hold yourself, to be in alignment with your sexual energy, knowing that nothing comes outside of you. But nothing is ultimately outside of you because you are all of creation. That is the primal force that is creating, that is the creator. That's why it's so powerful. And then there's less distortion. There's less need to manipulate or get something from someone else. Do not want. That's where that comes from. Do not lust.
Yes, thank you. It's quite healing, this information. I mean it. I will look the live stream back and more accurate. Only what I now, when you ask me how do you feel, I have to execute this listening to my inner guidance, inner emotional guidance, to say, okay, I choose to stop the relation totally. I stop pretending not knowing and go to blind faith and my own way. Something like that. It's my hypothesis from out of my mind sea. So you have to choose to go, to take risks. That's what I think my point is now.
Great. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I know this is a polarizing subject, or maybe harmonizing subject. Let's check. Parallel version of himself. He doesn't remember where he sat. It's a whole new world, my friend. Look at all the women around you. The men, wide open. Not yet, and maybe not at all. Yeah, you can lower your arms for now. Thank you. So one thing I want to share to this from a collective balance point of view, and this is it's very nice for me when I met Jocelyn to see that she shared a very similar sense. Whereas more often than not, if I shared this sense, it would be met with opposition or, yes, but you don't know this or that, or so it's refreshing to have a female partner that actually understands or agrees to this, and feel free to clarify your own point of view. So it's impossible. One of the reasons this type of dialogue is kind of tricky is because it's so difficult to be accurate, because you have to generalize, right? And there's so many different situations in every single life, and so many different codes and archetypes and imbalances. So it's never going to be an accurate description for you, but it's going to be somewhat accurate. It's going to be a somewhat accurate read, hopefully, of the collective imbalance. So just bear that in mind, I guess. The way I see it currently, and this might change, but I feel that the card is kind of in the hand of the women at this point in time, and I'll explain what I mean by this. Meaning to turn the tides, to turn the tables on collective healing. The ball is in your court, ladies. Of course, not entirely. It is a co-creation, and men need to continue to balance and evolve in their own way. But you guys have females have a very unique, collectively, unique position at this timing. It's very crucial for collective healing. So again, I'll explain a little bit more on this. But if you look at history, and I mean, you don't even need to look deeply into it. It's quite obvious, right? You can see that. Let's see. So if this was to represent the balance of power, like total equality in terms of how much each of the energies contributes, or how much power they have in the healing or the advancement of civilization, then you could visualize that this is what's been happening in the past. I don't know where to draw that line in terms of history, but thousands of years. And there's been many waves in different ways in between them. But you could say that if this is the male side of where the power is placed, and this is female, it's kind of been like this. Wait, let me see if I can draw this one time. Well, for fun, let's just call it 2012. Give or take a few years or decades. So the power has been on the side of the male species, right? So we've been using brute force and power and that penetrative power to basically abuse, suppress, make all the rules, make all the laws, etc. So this has been what's happening. Now, this might be a little bit of an exaggeration, but basically the power shifted not that long ago. And by power, I don't mean that suddenly society is ruled by women and that the laws and the suppression and oppression and abuse, that's no longer happening, and that now females are all dominatrixes and they're like dominating male. That's not what I mean by power. By power, I mean the power to make a difference, the power to restore balance, right? We had, even though it was abused, we had the power to restore balance on the male side of things. But that hasn't happened. So there is this sort of, this is elastic band effect. So the imbalance now goes in the opposite direction. The way I see it, again, is that women at this time, collectively, have more influence in the healing of our collective than men do. And that is in the way of forgiveness. So we've been through this whole resurgence of independence, and this has many different expressions, from a woman trying to like perform well at her 9-to-5 office job, suck her boss's cock and wear like masculine clothing, and like abuse herself in that way, out of sort of a rebound against the imbalance that has been the case for so long. So obviously that's not balance. That's not what, for most people at least, what that natural feminine energy wants to exude. And again, feminine energy and masculine energy exist in both male and female genders. So those are two things. Now, the issue at present, like, and this is a very acute thing. This moves rather quickly at this timing in our collective. Like every month, it's shifting, so to speak. So it's almost like the update at this timing is that there's still too much attachment in the general collective feminine rebound energy to try to strive for that independence, or I don't know, like it's hard to find the right words again because it's so general, right? Because in some scenarios, independence is a good thing. So just understand that I'm heavily generalizing. Just try to understand where I'm coming from with what I'm saying. Is that this whole trying to now empower yourselves as women in the same way that men would show that power, like externalize, in an externalized way, in a visible way. Like she was saying, the power of the feminine often is not as visible as the power of the men. It's not as physical, it's not as expressed in a way where you can put a label on it. It's more subtle, it's more, you could call it refined in a way, I guess. And so, the main difficulty that I see, or the obstacle to healing at this point in the male-female polarity, is that you try too hard to be your own separate person. You try too hard to stand up for your rights, actually. You're trying too hard to regain your independence. It's based on a fallacy. It's based on an illusion. So literally, you are continuing the imbalance of power, and you're continuing the past male suppression and dominance. You're literally the product of it, right? You're the rebounding product of it. And so if you're not careful, you might actually think that that is your power, that your power is to strive for your independence and be separate and show up for yourself, or set super clear boundaries, you know? So, and sure, there is some truth to all that in balance, everything in balance, case by case scenario. But large and by, like, healing won't happen from that state of separation. You know, to really take it to the next level, we as a feminine collective need to really see how we can forgive the past, because that's the only way to restore ourselves. It's the only way to restore our power as women. So I've regularly alluded to this, maybe not in the best terminology, but again, it's very hard to not get polarizing responses. So, anyway, maybe. Yeah, what I mean by independence? Yeah. Basically, okay.
No, you say what you're going to say.
No, it's good. I was just, you know, you're my dominatrix now. Well, there's a difference between, basically what I see is that it's a massive reaction to the past, right? So obviously that's somewhat necessary, and it has been somewhat necessary. But the way that I read it now is that your average, well, maybe not average man, again, there's so many demographics here, but let's just speak to this demographic, the people that are here. Okay, when I sense into the male population here, they are kind of like just sweet and awaiting your next order. They're like, yeah, like, sorry for the past, like, here we are, we want to evolve along with you. Yes. But really, you know, whatever you want is next. We'll just, like, we'll provide, or we'll be there for you, whatever it takes, we're ready. And a lot of the women, not necessarily in this group, but there is some of that energy that we all carry with us, right? So there's some of that rebound energy where it's not seen that actually the male population is ready for that change if it's done with respect and appreciation of the male population as it currently is, not as a rebound from the past. So what the male population is paying for right now is its own dominance in the past by, in a sense, being dominated by the women population, by not being seen, not being heard, not being given equal validity in that way. Does that make sense? because it's all about the women, not always, obviously, again, generalizing. But there is that energy where the balance of power is more in the hands of women, and we're kind of ready as men. We are much more open, much more mature, much more loving, respectful. So now, if the female population... the conscious men, right? We could say that, right? We're talking about the conscious population. But this is the cutting edge, and this is where we make or dictate the collective difference anyway. So this is really the only population we need to worry about. So if as much as possible... Did I say something wrong? This is where the change happens, right? This is the model for the new earth. So whatever is that fiery, compensatory energy of rising to independence, or rising to separation rather. Separation might be a better word than independence, but it often poses as independence, right? So we call it like being an independent woman, but really it's based on lack protecting yourself and making sure that you're not being suppressed again, so to speak. So this is a rebound energy, it's a reaction to the past. So if, like, just visualize hypothetically that, you know, the power of all females combined, if they come together and they actually decide, you know, do a little fire ceremony or something, and decide to acknowledge everything that has happened, but at the end of that session, decide that the only way forward is to forgive everything that has happened. If we as females can, I'm both genders, by the way. If we as females can really, really allow ourselves to feel that forgiveness and to channel our power, which is in our hands right now, through that grace, through that forgiveness, then I assure you, the men are large and by ready to receive that. And they're ready to handle that. Now, there is some learning that will happen, obviously, but the readiness is there, the willingness is there. It's not the same as it was, you know, hundreds of years ago, or even 50 years ago. It is shifting rapidly, and I really, really see that most conscious men these days are extremely malleable, extremely soft, and awaiting your order. So, no need to continue the punishment, because the males currently born don't necessarily have anything to do with that. So they're carrying the burden of the ancestors in the way that society was set up in the past. And we're all, in a sense, just products of that. We've all co-created it, but you could say that presently we are products of that. Our bodies and our emotional bodies are, to some extent, products of that. So to transcend that, to transform that, we need to really channel that ownership of power in ways of forgiveness, like both ways. But I just see that the female population at present somehow has more say in the matter. Like you know, the ball is in your court in terms of how swift that collective healing will happen. What's your perspective?
Yeah. So I agree entirely. Yeah. Because the patriarchy went so wrong, because any time that you inflate yourself, that's not true power. Power emanates, power ruminates, or power emanates and echoes into existence. There is no trying or inflating or dominating, or, you know, there's none of that. And so naturally, what's happening is because of the male imprint of this, they remember and they feel shame and guilt and bow before the feet of these women, and the women are holding on to the imprint, remembering being, you know, suppressed and oppressed for years. And
can everyone hear?
Oh, I don't think my mic is working. Thank you. Okay, so anytime that power needs to be exerted or like inflated, that is not true power in a man or a woman. Power radiates, it emanates, it creates magnetism. It's like that center that we talked about yesterday. So there's the polarity in the collective that's happening because men are bowing at the feet, the conscious men that are awakening are bowing at the feet of women out of guilt and shame. It's kind of like what's happened with the Native American tribes as well. You can see this in America happening quite readily and throughout different movements is, you know, this what's happening, the bowing of the feet for all of the stuff that our ancestors have done. Now, if women take that as a way to gain dominance, then we're just going to continue the vicious cycle. If we can actually meet man...
Or even, sorry, just a little insertion here. Or even, like I see a lot, it's not about gaining dominance, but it's about regaining your sense of self-worth.
Yeah.
Right? But if you can reroute it and see that it's nothing to do with your self-worth, how much money you make, or if you can have a job that, you know, shows who you are. Like that rising, that inflation that she was talking about.
Yeah.
That does not show your power, it does not reveal your worth, and worst of all, it distorts your natural energies. So you're actually preventing the healing feminine energy from entering this sphere by blocking it, by trying so hard to be worthy as a rebound effect to having been seen as unworthy or not as valuable. So even for your own sakes, you know, I remember this really polarizing post that I made. It was really funny. I said something along the lines of, please ladies, you know, stop trying to show your worth. You already are worthy. You don't need to stand up for yourself. Just be yourself. You already are power. You already are divine. You already have that energy. You don't have to show it to the world. It will be shown naturally. But if you try to show it to the world, or you try to stand up for yourself, and of course there's certain situations where you need to do that, right? So there's exceptions, or sometimes maybe it's more than an exception, but overall, generally what's needed right now is that in your personal life, that you don't make your life about trying to prove your worth as a rebound effect, as a reaction to the past. You need to really understand that even if it's never shown, even if it's never seen or acknowledged, you are the power, you are that infinite worth. So to not find your infinite worth through altering your natural state, you know, otherwise those healing energies can't come in anyway. You're blocking it with the masculine energy, so then the masculine energy is still dominating, but you're actually continuing it. You were talking about
Yeah, it was another direction.
what was she saying again? She had another direction, but what were some of the last words she said? Do you remember?
Regulating yourself.
Uh-huh.
This is not...
Did I dominate the conversation? Can you forgive me? It's okay.
No, it was a different thread.
It'll come back to you.
Yeah.
There's no lag.
Yeah.
Thank you. You are powerful. You don't have to compensate. Thank you very much. Yeah, I would love to, and this is what was so polarizing about that post. You know, it just sounded like, more of the old. But I said something along the lines of, I would love to just see women just be women. You know, it's like, no, like understand the power of just being a man or just being a woman, like just being true and authentic to the energy that you are.
So, biologically speaking, this is what's really interesting is that, so on this level, yes, we can have masculine and feminine energies, that's different, but on a biological level, women are wired differently biologically. like chemically. So men actually succeed when they have something that excites the adrenal system. So it's like adventure, action, a call, that's that call to action. This is like the biological level of it. Women, so women prosper on a chemical called oxytocin. Does anybody know what oxytocin is? Raise your hand if you do, nice and high. Great. So the vast majority. If you don't know what oxytocin is, it's the bonding chemical. Does that give you a code for the collective, an information imprint or a hint at what we're good at? Women are good at connecting. We connect the tribe, we connect children to our heart and to the world. So, and what happens is, what scientists have done studies on this. There's a beautiful company or business that's made for women called Braveheart Women, and it's actually about the bioenergetics and the sciences behind women in business and actually how you proliferate and make it sustainable. Because what they studied is that women who inflate themselves in this adrenal response, the same as men, actually, they have the peak, and then they crash, and they bottom out. So it's like you'll go to like a motivational event, and you feel really inspired and great, and you're gonna take on the world, and you've like inflated yourself, you know? And then like women just crash after that. So they just just completely bottom out. Their system we're not wired for that. We're made to sit around and support each other while we're weaving baskets, nurturing children. Do you know what I mean? Like our body biologically is made to prosper, to make things, to co-create, to connect, to nurture. And so there's these beautiful systems that are in the Braveheart Women movement that talk about how you go about gaining power, sustainable resonance as a woman. Without this inevitable cycle of the crash and burn after inflating yourself. So that's the actual scientific backing to what he's saying. Of course, people who are transgender or something that are taking testosterone, they're going to have more, a woman that is ultimately transitioning into a man, they're going to have access to more testosterone, so it's a different thing. But we see more and more cases at this point of PCOS. Anybody know what that is? Polycystic ovarian syndrome, endometriosis. I worked for a chiropractor for 2 years, and this is an increase in androgens or male hormones and adrenaline, and we're seeing. The medical community is seeing more and more cases of women with these syndromes, these diseases, and we don't know why. But it's this unnatural push for the woman to be a man too. And I'm not talking about energetically holding yourself, witnessing your own emotions, having the overview of what the community needs. These are the masculine essences that can be infused into a woman that create a healthy dynamic. Being able to hold yourself. It's like the matriarch, if you would think of like a crone or a woman who has gained wisdom, an elder woman who is able to take care of the community. And with a man, same thing. You don't have to be completely opposite spectrum where you're crying your eyes out and watching The Notebook and eating chocolates and, it's not the other way. It's just being able
love
to
The Notebook.
It's just being able
to. Oh my God, Ryan Gosling.
It's just being able to recognize your own emotions, being able to express yourself when needed, being able to create clear connection. Yeah? Because those are the wounded parts or the unseen parts. But anyway. So, anytime you're inflating yourself, it's delusion.